All right, I think we're going. Hey guys, Sean Darling here. I am back to the orc that we were working on a long time ago. Figured why not just get some more work done on him. Got a little image in the background here that's a sketch that I'm just kind of basing everything off of. The head is done, I believe. So we're going to go now and work on the body. So first things first, I'm just going to create a new layer for that body and call it torso, I guess. I don't think he needs a neck. This torso is also going to be, under all of the head. So I'm going to put this down here. Close the head up for now. This stuff probably won't stay all grouped inside that head group. It's just for organization because some stuff gets wonky parenting-wise sometimes. And a lot of it doesn't need to be in there if it's parented, like, say, to the head bone. Anyway, it's mainly for organization for the moment. So the torso, I'm just going to come across here, and we're going to make some points, just kind of deciding where this goes. I'm going to probably just kind of bring it down until somewhere behind the belt because that is pretty much is a good line of demarcation to say this is where the it ends and so forth. I probably can even make this one a little straighter here on either side and push these up like so, since the belt's going to be sitting over that to some degree. Also, this belt that runs up here is going to be hiding that pec, so I'm not worried about that. I do want to copy the color from the head real quick. So I'm going to open up that folder, go to head, and select my select shape tool. And just open this color. It's the easiest way to do it. And all this stuff's going to come up on the wrong screen. Let me fix that. We're going to copy that color. I'm going to go back, close all this back. Go back to the torso, click on with my select shape tool here, and paste in that color now, like that. So now we have the torso. Or the shape for it, I'm going to go ahead and make the line with a bit thicker to kind of match the head a little more. Something like that. I'm not going to worry about a whole lot of detail or anything. I might put those little lines that sort of come under the pecs here just for the sake of it. I'm not going to put a bunch of scratchy lines in there, sketchy stuff. This is all just going to be mainly, what do you call it, the outline type lines and so forth. I guess we could continue this one on to the edge to kind of make it like the other, and then I'm gonna just move this one up, undo, thank you, and then we'll move this one up if I'm using the right tool, like this, somewhere in there, just so it matches a bit better. I can thin out these ends now. I am planning to have a video out. I do have one on doing the mesh warping and with the bitmap. Oh, I just realized I'm not even showing you guys my screen. My bad. Hang on. Let me transition down to a smaller image here. My bad. There we go. Now you can see it. I'm going to be doing a video with the mesh warping and so forth, warpable mesh layers and all that. It's almost done editing. And I'm also going to be coming out with a video on Vitruvian bones coming up soon, hopefully, as well. I've had a lot of stuff going on. I was sidetracked with a project that pretty much went nowhere with somebody. So shame there. Shame on them mostly, but well, whatever. And anyway, not that that matters. So back to it, I guess, is what I should be saying, getting back to this. So I'm going to make a new layer here. I'm going to make this the shadow. So I'm just going to write shadow. And with this, we're going to just kind of make our shadow essentially the same as it is here. That is sort of cutting down around the head. And these don't have to be nice and correct, because all of this stuff gets cut off because it's a mask. Also, we want to select it. We want to turn the stroke off for it. And then I have to decide on my shadow color. I'm going to make it the same shadow color as the head. So we need to pop back into the head here to its shadow layer. Select that color. This guy here, I think it's already selected. And let's just grab the darker, is that the right one? Shadow, it should be, yeah. So we're just going to pop into the color here, copy it, and we can jump out of there. We can go back into the shadow for the torso, which is there. And with the shape tool, select shape tool selected, we're going to jump in and paste it in there. That's wrong, but let's go ahead and do it anyway. And I think the reason why it doesn't look right is because this is probably, most likely, set to multiply for the head. So let me just check that on the shadow layer for the head. I'm just going to double click it and bring up its properties. And this says here, multiply. How did I know that? Because I'm smart. All right, so back to the shadow here. We'll double click it now, and we'll select that to multiply. And now we have a darker shadow like the other one. Cool. If it's not the same color, it's just because the opacity might be different. Might as well check the shadow of the head. For that, it says 100, so we're good. It's always good to check these things. All right, so now we can move on to, I'm going to wait on the belt. We can go ahead and move on to the pelvis and legs here. I want to group the shadow and torso together, though, because these need to be cut off. You can see the shadows kind of coming out right there. So we're going to group that together. I'm going to go ahead and put this as torso. And got a little torso. Double click that. Masking hide all as normal. Okay. And on the torso, we're going to go into the masking and go exclude strokes. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. I mean, this isn't a tutorial. It's just a live stream, but you guys hopefully will get the idea as to what I did there and why. If not, it's on so many other videos that I've done, but there will be others. Okay, cool. Back in the torso now, let's go ahead and make this pelvis. So we're going to create a new layer, vector layer. We're going to call this pelvis. And this was originally a character for a medieval fantasy cartoon. I would like to still do it if possible. We'll see. So somewhere under the belt, we're just going to come out here, make some, points that hopefully link up. Do I have auto weld on? I do. Doesn't seem to be welding though, does it? So what I will do is make another point here like this, stop it short, right click or enter, and then drag these together to make them auto weld, because you don't tell me what to do, I tell you. There we go. All right, there we go. And then we're going to go ahead and just kind of drag this around to a sort of crotch-ish shape here for the pelvis, like that. This will all be pretty much hidden behind the belt, so don't worry about much of this. Just give yourself enough points to make the shape, and hopefully the resolution, the amount of points, for the correct resolution to make that bendable, animatable, and so on. I'm not going to worry about getting these out really far because these are going to be covered by the belt, as I said before, but that little lump's supposed to be on the leg. Anything that's going to be, covered by the belt, I'm not really horribly worried about. We do have to make this far enough out, though, to where when it's not being hidden by the belt, it's in the right spot. This can be probably, I think, sharpened a little. There we go. And then we're going to go in and take the whole shape and turn the stroke for it off. And then we need to decide on like a pant color here. So I'm just going to say it's an orc. Let's go with kind of a dark gray. Maybe we'll get out of the greenish tone, or maybe even stay in it a little bit. That's fine. Something like that. And now his pants are going to wind up being that color. We can turn on the stroke again, though, now that I think about this. Let's go ahead and turn that back on for this shape. And then we can come in with our hide edge tool and get rid of, any of these edges we know need to be hidden. These down here can probably stay on if they're going to be seen. I don't really think they are, but you know, just in case, we can leave a couple. That one very well may, if the leg doesn't cover it, but we should leave that because the leg will cover it partially and also not. I don't really care about the upper and lower because the belt's going to always cover that, so it doesn't matter if we have that on or not. But just for you know, doing the right thing here, let's turn all these off because we don't want those accidentally showing either. And we can click away, and there we go. All right, so without that background color, this is where we're left. He looks very much like he has a weird neck, but that's his chest and his pelvis. Whoops, back to frame 0 here. And if we want, we can start on the legs, arms, or we can do the belt. But I think, for me, I think I'm going to start on the legs. So we're just going to go ahead and make a new shape or a new layer. Call this leg upper right. And that's my naming convention, something I talk about all the time, but I don't know if anybody cares about, but it's important. I always do the body part, which side, you know, which part it is, and then which side is on. Just keeps things organized. Okay, so let's go ahead and map out the shape of just the upper part of the leg. The lower part is so short, I think I'm going to make it this little wrap here, and then the upper part will just be this, and then the shoe can be the foot, obviously. So kind of give myself a couple of points through there to just give us a nice rounded out shape. And something like this doesn't have to be 1000% perfect, just make it as good as you want, kind of thing, right? And I think that will be kind of okay. We can come in, of course, and straighten some of these out a bit to be a little more correct. Can also peak those entirely if we really want to. Can also turn on the handles here so we can see what we're doing, which, imagine that concept. And then pull these back. Move stuff around to where it's just going to be in the right place. Hard to tell with that other stuff in the way. But we get the idea, and there you go. Good enough. If you want to, you can obviously double this over to the other side. We can add some detail or not. I think, in all honesty, just put a little there, maybe a line going across the knee. Something maybe like this. A little squiggle. Something like that. And then when we come back in, it obviously doesn't have a stroke on it yet, but we're going to sharpen these up a little and then put that stroke on that. So we'll just come in here, grab the shape. We can't see it, so we go to create shape, click on it, make sure it's only stroke, and then say create. There we go. Then we come in here with our line width tool and just start knocking some of this back to look like it's a scribbled line with varying widths like this. Get the idea. Cool. So for now, that'll be fine. That's going to go, I think, I don't know if it should go under or over the pelvis, but I think over the pelvis because that leg will come in front often. So I'm going to go in here with my hide edge tool, just hide these top edges again. You may or may not leave this one depending upon if you want a crease, but if it's going to always be behind this, it doesn't matter. All right, so now we're going to take the leg here. We're going to take the layer. Come over here, right click it and duplicate it. And then we can select the layer with our transform layer and flip that over to the other side. And now we have two. And then we can adjust these points to make them not exactly mirrored and the same. So we come in here, select the background, and then grab our magnet tool and move stuff around accordingly. It's going to be similar, you know, to the other side, but you can move these to where it's not a perfect mirror, which I do suggest, just so people don't go, hey, that's cheap. We don't want no cheap, you know, stuff up in here. So that looks pretty good. If you're worried about this line, just grab the points of that line and move those around. Like, you know, like make it more, a little more like that or something. Be perfectly fine. Flip it that way, or, you know, just to make it different. Cool. Okay, so there's our other leg. We need to rename that leg to upper leg left. I suggest doing that right away on anything you do because you'll forget, trust me. If you guys want to say, hey, I do have a chat right here in the bottom. So I just said, hey, chat with me. All right, so there's our upper legs. Lower legs are going to be a little more involved. Not hardly, though, not heavily. So we go here to the other, we'll say leg lower, or you can put calf or whatever. Right. And now we can start with our little points. You can also sketch this out or whatever way you want to go about doing it. Oftentimes I will draw it, go back and clean up the drawing. It's just however I'm feeling that day, or if the look kind of dictates that's the best way to do it, then that's the best way to do it. Something like that. The thing is, this leg is so short, it's going to be odd to bend it one way or the other. So, you know, do it best you can. And then when you go to bend the leg, I would suggest setting up smart bones so that when you bend it, you're not fighting all these points every single time, which a lot of people go ahead and do anyway. And I don't understand that insanity. So I suggest using smart bones on stuff like this and really making it move properly. I'm just adding in a couple of extra lines here to give me a lot more of the wrinkles of these things, but not so many that this is going to be an issue to animate. You don't have to do every little line. A lot of this stuff is just understood, believe it or not. I think the biggest issue a lot of people have is thinking they need more detail than they do, because in 2D it is so like unnecessary to put every wrinkle, every fold, every line. You can get away if you look at the cartoons of the 80s especially. Lots of flat color, no lines whatsoever, and they still work, you know, and I highly recommend doing it that way. That's a cartoon, you know, it really is. Okay, cool. So there's that lower leg. We can decide on color of that. That can be a wrap of some sort. I don't know yet, but for this, I think right now we got to fill the same color of the pants. That's fine. And we're going to take that layer, duplicate it again, and we're going to call it left right away, because I will forget. We're going to grab its layer, we're going to just flip over here and then move it into place and push the points around. You can see they're way off on this side just because, you know, it's drawn a little differently, and that leg is maybe a little farther back, right? Yeah, that's the reason. And we'll just push these points around a little bit more. We get closer together. I try to kind of skip over to the next point to sort of ensure they won't overlap. Let's see, they were like something like that. There we go. Make it lumpy, make it not lumpy. However it needs to be to look the way you want it to look. I know, it's a logical duh thing to say, but still true. Don't give me a hard time. Still true. All right, close enough there, close enough there. We'll just bounce some points around and hope everyone's happy. I'm just pulling these up a little bit because I'm going to put these behind the upper legs. That way, you know, we don't get any like visible weird gaps flashing. So we're going to take those lower legs now and just pull them down below the upper legs like that. Cool. All right, good enough. And then shoes, same thing. Make a new layer. This will be called what? Foot right. I'm going to move that foot outside of the head. So let's pull it down. The legs also need to be outside of that head layer, including the pelvis. Let's put these all below the torso, so that way they're not in the head layer anymore. The foot's going to be down here. We're just going to come over and do the same thing. Foot right. Any of these little hanger off things we can do later or go back or whatever and put it on the pants or wherever we want. But I'm just trying to, you know, make it as obviously not as sketchy, a little less busy, a lot easier to animate is my point. Cool. Something like that. And then we can just bang, bang, bang the 3 points up in here, or 2 or 3 to give that a closed shape. start, pulling across a couple of these lines. These don't even have to intersect. In fact, it looks a little better sometimes when you don't. Plus, it doesn't create these islands that are cut off from each other, which in Moho sometimes happens, gives you weird issues here and there as well. So I just kind of keep these not completely closed often. Like a good place to do that would be like right here where this little highlight is. So you can come here to here and say, that's as far as that one goes. And then where that highlight is, we start another one with a little bit of a distance between it. And now I can connect it to this guy if we can. Let me just move this over. This might be giving me an issue. We'll find out. But because it's not blocked through, it shouldn't. But we're just going to take the Create Shape tool, grab that line and say, yes, make a stroke right there. Good. And then, of course, you can take your magnet tool or whatever you've got to adjust these points with and do that. So, cool. We don't need all these little scratchy lines. It's going to be assumed that that's what that is. If you do want this part darker than the other, we can connect these. We can make it a separate piece. Because when the shoe starts moving and revealing like the sole on the bottom and stuff, which we'll want to do for making him walk and stuff, you'll want this all to be separate pieces, trust me. But just for sketching reasons, I'm just doing this all as kind of like one-ish piece right now. Not sure where those aren't welding when I place them, but I've got auto weld on, but it's still not welding them as I place them. So I'll have to go back and do a create shape on those lines and then move them around a little bit. It's a little bit annoying, but it's fine. Now let's just grab one point at a time. Don't get greedy. Don't get cocky kid. All right. And then we can take all of those maybe and just zoom them all down. Yeah, we could add this one in here, whatever. The more you add, the more difficult this piece is going to be to animate because you have to move more points. But look at this. You see how this isn't giving me an auto weld on that? You see auto weld's checked, but this isn't automatically locking to that shape. So I'm going to press Enter. I'm going to move that manually to do that, and then I'll have to go create that shape here manually. I'm not sure why it's doing that. Usually it'll automatically click it, but I must have something turned off. Cool. And then we'll just create that and thin it down, obviously. Little here, maybe make it a little thicker toward the side or something. I don't know. You get the idea. There we go. Good enough. All right, so that one's done. We can obviously copy and paste that one over to the other and adjust all of our lines. Saves time. So, yeah, I'm considering buying the, what's it called? It's a rigging tool, and it's like 45 bucks or something, but it's really, really good for quick rigging certain things and adding circle joints and all this stuff really quickly. Thinking about it. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I can't remember. It's on, one of those shops. All right. So we're going to duplicate the layer. We're going to flip it over. Select the layer. Flip it over. I didn't rename it right away, which I do recommend you do. This one's a little smaller. A little, yeah. So what I'm going to do here is recenter my layer center here. I'm going to pull this in just a bit. I'm not going to get it too squished just because I don't want to have to deal with unsquishing it a lot. So I'm going to leave it like so. We'll change this once we have our sketch turned off. All right, so I say let's do the belt since the arms are going to kind of start cluttering things up here. And we want to make the belt a waist piece and then a chest piece. Maybe even add this piece as separate for sure too, because then we can put some dynamic bones in there and have it wave as he walks or moves around. So we're going to make a new layer here. We're going to call this belt. This is going to be its own separate piece. And if you want, which we'll probably should do as well, is make a belt left and right and a separate buckle so that when he turns, that belt left and right can also be hidden individually. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and do belt right. And we'll make the separation point the buckle of belt left and belt right. So belt right, we can come in, follow our nifty shape here. Don't worry, we'll go back and we will change all of these points to much sharper points. And we'll just come around. And then behind this buckle is where we're going to sort of hide our sins there. And then there we go. And then we'll come back with our tool. We'll sharpen all this up to make sure this is nice and as it should be. All right. And giving this just a little. There we go. Cool. And I'm going to grab my create shape because these lines have not automatically formed, and we're going to make those strokes, and we'll say OK. And evidently they are hidden behind the pelvis. We're going to grab that belt layer and move it up, and probably needs to move that up above our torso as well. So right below the head, not inside the head or torso layers, but right above the torso layer, we throw that. So now we can actually see it. The belt, I'm thinking, can be either brown or black, and I'm thinking brown might be better than making black because all the black lines are going to go away if we do that. So I think I'm going to run and do this little color change to something a little more like this, like that, and now we'll have that browner belt. I think I can flip this over and push my points around for the other side, so I'm just going to duplicate that layer. We'll call it immediately belt left. I probably have another piece there I haven't done this to also, haven't I? Yeah, foot. We need to make the foot R2 also, foot left. So the belt left now, we are going to come in here, we're going to grab it, we're going to flip it, and we'll go worry about our centers on these things later, our pivot points, but I'm just going to grab this, rotate this around. Right here, this is why you want to fix your pivots, because it makes this part a lot easier. Let's go ahead and do it now. I'm just going to set my pivot to something like here. And now when we rotate the belt, you can see it's going to be a little easier to handle. Maybe. So that's good enough. So now we're going to create our, and we can move lines, remove lines, all that kind of stuff now that I think about it. Let's figure out where they really should be. Maybe this one gets a little less, length than the other side or something, it's a little, thins out a little toward the end here. Something like that. You want to add this variation when you can. I'm going to probably get rid of that particular one here, or at least part of it, like getting rid of some of these points toward the end. There we go. We're going to go ahead and yeah, that's probably okay. Good enough. And then we can, like I said, make the buckle for the middle. It will cover everything else. And the buckle will be on a layer, but I think I'm going to make multiple pieces to it on that same layer. So right above here, we're going to go with buckle. If you guys are watching, say hello. I realize this isn't a tutorial, but say hello and ask questions, follow along, or whatever. I know you can't really follow along, but you know what I mean. I hope. Okay, so there we go. There we go. There we go. Just adding some resolution to this so that the curves are good enough to be made. And now for the center, because right now, if I turn this off, you can see this is just one big block. But if you add another line here, edges, more edges here, and then you select create shape between the inner and outer of those, you now create a hole. It's very cool. So let's turn that back on, and we can see we're going to create another shape here. Only use the amount of points you really need to make these shapes. Otherwise you'll be animating tons of points you don't really need to be. I usually try to, have my corners have like 3 so you can kind of control the curvature of that, the sharpness of it, and so on. Like right here, this could be a little sharper because it kind of cuts across, blah, blah, blah. But now, when we come in here and turn off our stuff here, you can see if we want, we can select this shape, and this is going to be its own shape. You can even come in here and grab, let's say, both these, and you could say both, and you can say create shape, and now that's its own shape. So every time I click it, it'll be just this piece. Now this piece, let's look here. This is its own piece as well. So with this part, if we wanted to, we could even delete that, I believe. Let me see if I messed up or not. Grab the shape. Yeah, I think that was not a good idea. Let's go ahead and have this and this. Okay, those are 2. We can take this one and we can change the color on it or whatever we want. So right here we can, let's say, make it brown like the buckle. In fact, we can snag the color of the buckle, or the belt, I mean, and have that here. Then we can change the color of the belt. This is all in the same layer, you realize. So we're going to just go with kind of a more silver-ish buckle, something like this. Okay, we can go in and put on extra detail lines, whatever we want to, but I'm trying to make this more of a Saturday morning cartoon kind of vibe and not get too detailed with it. And we're going to turn on that sketch underneath and try to adjust some of these points out just a little more now because they are a bit, in my opinion, in the wrong spot, a little too close together and not curvy enough for the final buckle, in my opinion. Maybe something a little more like that. And you can adjust them all day long if necessary. Just get it the way you want. I think this will work though for the moment. I don't want it to be too perfect, but also not too ugly. But I think that works. All right. So now this little piece here, we're just going to add on the same layer, I think. If we need to put it on another layer, we can do it later. But we're just going to not click on the actual pre-existing lines here so it doesn't automatically snap to those. I'm skipping over them to do that. 2 here just to get a tighter curve. Trying to keep this relatively symmetrical. It doesn't absolutely need that, but it does seem to, especially when you put bones and stuff, seem to work much better if you keep it kind of the same amount of points on each side of an object. This is a little different type of an object than something like a leg or an arm, but it does kind of help. Okay, good enough here. We already had the color selected for it, and I think it is the wrong color. It is. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of drag and grab that same silver. There we go. Much better. I'm going to wait on the shadows for the belt until I have all this other stuff turned off and I can see what I'm doing. And now we're going to add the strap, which will go behind this belt. You can see, well, actually, you know what? It's going to go in front. We're going to add the strap that's going to go across the chest. So right here, we're going to say chest strap. Hopefully we still have a camera going. And the sun is getting lower, so it's going to be a little darker. Sorry about that. Can't look at my beautiful face. I mean that all in good fun, trust me. All right, so right behind here, this will wind up being behind the head. But I want to get this high enough to where if this shoulder shows for any reason, oops, I didn't put that far enough out. If it shows for some reason, then, well, we're covered. You see, I'm just kind of haphazardly chucking those in there, and then we can adjust after the fact. And they'll probably have to have more points near just for body movement and stuff. You know, it's going to be a dependent on how much he has to move, given the bones and so forth that he's got in him. So something like this, I'm just going to go ahead and peak these by hitting that one and going Control P on the keyboard and it'll sharpen that. Control P. There's also this button up here on the curve tool here. You can grab that one and it does the same thing. Cool. You can also do the opposite of that by clicking on a point and going Control M, and it makes that rounded again. It's a reset for the curve, but you can think of it as peak and mountain. So Control P does the peak, Control M does the mountain. That's how I remember it. All right, so the chest strap's got to be behind the buckle, but in front of the belt. There we go. And we'll put a couple of lines on here, at least one, to kind of give us this effect there. I'm going to put it up here behind his head in case we do see it later. And if it doesn't work like that, you just select the line while you have your Create Shape tool selected. We make sure it's on stroke only. Create Shape, and there you go. Cool. So everything's done except for the arms now. Obviously no rigging, nothing cool like that. But I'm going to leave all these earrings off for the moment. I may or may not put some more on here. They just make animating a lot more difficult as well, because when he does a head turn, we have to account for the fact that the earrings also need to turn in perspective every time he's turning his head left, right, up, and down, which is fine. Once you get it done once, you know, it'll work all the time, unless you have some special case. Just something to think about. All right, so it looks to me like the arms are behind the chest. So above this leg here, we'll add a new layer, and we'll call this arm upper right, because we do the arm, the body part, its distinction, and then left or right, or up and down, or whichever you have. All right, so we're just going to kind of decide where this starts. I'm going to come down, and I'm just going to kind of do that kind of thing for it. I don't know exactly where it goes, but I'm using my imagination to kind of decide that. And we can obviously get rid of the lines that aren't going to exist there. Those we can't see, so I'm not worried about them at the moment. Then we need to grab the shape here so we can decide which color this is going to get. I'm going to turn off our thing here, and I'm going to sample the color from the face. Worry about the shadows in a little bit. So that's the upper arm. Cool. So we'll turn our thing back on, and we can thin our lines out or adjust our curvature on a couple of these, like so. Just something like this, and adjust the line width to show these sort of trailing off. Any kind of adjustments we need to make, we can do at this point. If we need another, point or whatever, then we can do that now as well. But I think that's more than enough. You don't want more points than you can get away with. Try to use as few as you can, because it'll be a godsend when you start animating. If you have to do any point by point animation, trust me. All right, so with that arm upper, now we're going to go arm. We're going to go forearm right, actually. Okay, and we're just going to start dropping points here. Now we don't need to do the arm under this. So what I'm going to do is just do kind of a cutoff here, like so, because we're going to create that other piece in a little separate piece on the same layer. All right, so it will these bandages will cover this little part, and the cool thing is the wrist is going to be covered by these. So if we had a break, we'd never see it either way. All right, so with that, we've got this. We need to actually go in and turn off some of these extra bits here. And it looks like we should probably move a couple of points as well. So I'm going to move this point there. And I think we should have the forearm on the top of the bicep, even though it looks kind of like the bicep's in front at the moment. I think the forearm should be in front, because when you bend the arm, it's going to raise up in front of this bicep. So more often than not, that's what you need to do. So that's what I'm going to do here. And that looks all right. And I'm going to make sure that this one is peaked. This one is peaked, just to give us a little more control on these sides. And if you want to, you can pull that in, because this is going to pop out there anyway. And I think that works pretty good. Any lines you want, we can throw in as well. Like if we wanted to continue this line down, we could do that and just, you know, don't connect it. You can if you want to, but you may or may not have problems with that. And for some reason mine aren't connecting when I'm making them. So like I said, I have to go back here and grab that and then let it auto weld to that edge. And then we go through and just thin these out to however we think we need to be. This whole thing could be a little bit thinner, I guess. And I think that works. Okay, so now we're going to make the bandage part of the arm there. It's going to be on the same layer, so we don't need to change that. I'm just going to add some more points here. I'm going to not click them to where they weld with that, because even though I don't want them to right now, and they haven't been, I'll bet you can see right here, if I do click on that, yep, it's now going to finally weld to it because I don't want it to. All right, so with that, I'm just going to make some points where I know the shape of this needs to sort of change and go jet in and out and so forth. So I'm just going to come around. I know there's probably going to be a little breaking line there, you know, and I'm trying to, once again, not make all this detail, because it's, for one, the style of the cartoon doesn't need it, but another, we don't want to animate all of these points if we don't have to that way. So it's not the proper style of animation, you know, that's going to require that we do that. Alrighty, so here I'm going to just start to try and sharpen up a few of these points a bit to get a better turn here where it hits the arm. Obviously where these little sharp inner corners really should be, if we have an outer one, but I don't really think at the moment there is one. A couple of these could probably move around. Obviously the corners should be cornered like that. You can do Control P and Control M on these. I'm just kind of manually doing them so I have a little more control. If I want them completely done, then I can do that, but for the moment, just kind of doing them by hand. Then we could go back once again with our lines here that go to the edge, and I'm not going to make these go all the way, you know, and I probably should have did this one backwards where it started here and then didn't meet over here, but that's a taste thing. Make sure that you also are not attaching any of this stuff to that. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to where I know it's not going to bond with one of those other lines. And yes, this could cause you some animation problems later, but it's not going to accidentally snap to it when you're just moving them, luckily. And then we can come in and, you know, thin some of that out. Make these look a little more like they're quicker sketched ink lines or something. Something like this. A little bolder at some parts and a little less bold at others. Kind of like me at different times of the day. All right, and then we can do a couple of more here and there. Obviously, I think this one needs sort of one maybe at that point. And then one from here. Maybe coming about that far out. And then we can adjust all the widths to make sense. Very cool. Now, if you're liking what you see when you come by, like and subscribe, please. It helps everything. As you hear daily 900 people tell you when you watch their videos, it's very true. All right, so this is going to be probably a more tan color, I think, for something like this. Maybe something like that. And I think that's working. And once we get done with this arm, we are going to absolutely copy and paste it over and change up the placement of some of the points so that they feel a lot more individualized. Also on this upper arm, I think I'm going to put a nice little crease here. I think that will help sell the fact that it's not just a little weird dummy arm stuck on to a dude. So we're just going to grab that. We're going to go ahead and create shape, make sure it's on stroke. And you can see right now it's hidden though because it is behind, possibly the forearm is covering this. So I'm going to check my forearm. Yep, and that is exactly what's going on. So the forearm doesn't necessarily need to be that high overall. So I'm just going to grab, or I could have put this on the forearm, but honestly I want it to stay with the rotation of the upper arm. So I'm just going to pull this down until I can see that line, and that will be more than enough. So just think about those things. Back to that arm upper, we can thin that out a little bit as it goes across, darker, wider as it goes underneath the body. Like I said, shading I'll get to here in a bit. That'll be this whole section, blah blah blah. But you've seen how I've done it on the face and the chest and stuff. So it's the same process. All right. So now the hand, I'm just going to add another vector layer. I'm going to call this hand right, and this can be drug below the forearm, and because it's got to be underneath this bandage. So I think that'll be fine. That way it's above the arm upper, so that if he bends his arm, it still happens that this is in front. Okay, so on the hand, this is a closed hand, which is going to be fine for right now, but we're going to need to either swap out other hands or make a hand with open fingers or something that we can swap to, which we can do easily enough with either switch layers, but even smoother if we do it with the Vitruvian bones. So we'll get to that, and then a whole video on that eventually as well. So right now I'm just going to kind of, oh, I think that's supposed to be in front. Look at that. Okay, so we're going to go here. I'm going to just sort of give me a little round cap on that, and then I'm going to move these around, and possibly the pants where this edge of this thumb really should be. Sometimes I get confused at what I'm looking at. So a little more like that. We will wind up peaking that particular one. Good. This one here as well. This one, probably. And here we're going to have to add maybe another point right here. Yeah, that looks a bit better. I think I can live with that for the moment. This will change. It always does. But for the moment, I think that will work. I'm going to do a couple of inner lines here. Maybe even include a small bit here for the thumb. Looks like I've got a little extra piece that I can just drag out of the way. And then get the thickness on all of these better. This one did not take, so what we have to do is select it and go to the Create Shape tool and make sure it's just on stroke and say yes. Create just for stroke. And there we go. All this gets thinned down a bit. And then we can add in any knuckle lines or anything else. I don't want to get too crazy with it. These shouldn't be too long. I think they're a little too long in that sketch, so I'm just going to kind of do this for now. See what they look like in a bit. I will change my mind 100 times and fix things as I go. We're going to grab those, go with the stroke selected and Create Shape, and then thin those down too. If I'm moving too fast on stuff, you guys have questions, please ask. That's what these videos are for. It's just a quick way to get a bunch of information while I work. So if you are watching, say hello, ask questions. All right, we're going to use this to snag his skin color again. Boom. And everything should be good to go. I'm now going to take the forearm, the hand, and the arm upper here, all the right side. We're going to right click and we're going to duplicate those layers. I'm going to grab them and move them down or up just to make them group separately. You know what I mean? They jumble together. And then I'm going to go in individually here and change their name to left. You want this right away so you don't start confusing yourself. I rename as much as I can right away on these things. And with these three, I think we have to do this individually, sadly, but we're going to take that one and select the transform layer and flip it. And that's in a pretty good spot already. We can adjust all these points shortly. And then we're going to take, and instead of doing that, hang on, let me just undo that. And we're going to have the upper, whoops, let's redo that. Okay, the arm parts, I'm going to select all these, shift select this, and see if I can flip them all at the same time. I should be able to. There we go. And now we can come in and move the points around. The hand looks fine. The upper arm is a little, could be adjusted. But remember, this, we're not doing it exactly to the sketch. We want this to be relatively symmetrical. So we don't have to move this tons and tons to get it to be exact. We can literally go with, let's see, hand, arm, upper, forearm. We can have this be similar, not exact. You know, we can adjust all these points all day, however we like, just to where they feel, you know, the same. But they don't have to be exactly on this drawing, because the drawing is done in kind of a perspective. We want our guy to be able to move left, right, without necessarily having perspective on him all the time if he wants to stand perfectly straight forward and front. We also need this little modesty cloth right here. So this will be part of the belt, but we're going to put it under the buckle, I think, right here. And that has to be on top of the chest strap. So it can go above or below the chest strap. It doesn't matter as long as it's on top of the belt. So I'm going to put it right here. Where's belt? I'm going to say new layer, which will go right under the chest strap. And I'm going to say crotch cloth because, you know, we don't care here about what it's called. And I'm going to just draw out this with our add point tool as usual. You can do this with the freehand tool, whatever you want to use. Totally fine. But which would probably be faster, but there's probably going to be more editing. So either way, you're going to wind up probably spending about the same amount of time doing this. However, it's all about your drawing style, I think, at the end of the day. So this is going to feel like the end of the belt and or the crotch cloth. So actually, let's keep these separate. I just realized that. This really, whoops, this really should be the end of the belt separately from the little cloth. So this is going to be our cloth only. And it's going to come up behind the belt here, link up, and we're going to peek these little ends right here. Control P, and this one Control P. We can, you know, do a few of these like so, the same way, to get our nice sharper points on these. Be careful that you don't select all points like I just did, unless that's what you want. And okay, good enough for the moment. So we're just gonna move these around just a little bit to get them in a better spot. And then, good there. We need to give it the color we want, which is, in my opinion, going to be either the brown or the black or, you know, something. We can make this more black than the pants even. So if we grab the, let's say, pant color and then go up to the little sample there and just pull it down a little farther, fine. And now we've got, when we see this anyway, like we turn on Control U, you'll see it to be a little bit darker than the pants. So Control U again. I think the boots also should be a little darker, but we're going to add shading to them. So I'm going to kind of hold off for a minute on those. If you're watching, say hello. And then let's get the end of the belt. So we're just going to say maybe on the belt, but no, I think on a different layer because it's going to have to move kind of with this sort of belt left. I'm just going to put belt tip. That way we know what it is. And we can just come in here and bring that from behind. We're going to wind up making that one a peak and just kind of hide that, you know, like that. We're going to grab those ends and Control P here and Control P. Always control your P, I say. And there we go. Good enough. Oh, we got it, that one too. So right here, Control P. All right. So works for me. And then we need to make sure that this shape, by clicking on it, is the same color as our belt. I'm going to turn on Control U so we can see what we're doing. And we're going to grab and sample the belt color. And there we are. without super tons of detail. I think the color of the hands is wrong because we're sampling from this, but with our image on in the background, which doesn't work because it works, but it's going to sample the lighter color. We don't want that. Let's go back to the hand now, the hand left selected, and we're going to sample now from the regular face color, which should help us out a lot. And the hand right, we're going to do the same thing and sample that from the face color as well. So much better, looks a little correct. We don't have the shadows here, but this is all addable real quick. I'm going to make his boots a bit darker too. So on shoes, where are you, my friend? And if we want, we can make these leg wraps, maybe make them a little lighter, like the pants brown, you know, the belt brown or something, or even the wraps here. So let's do that. We're going to go with foot. I was looking for belt, but, or sorry, shoe. So we're going to take those and we're going to make those quite a bit darker now. I don't want to go fully black probably with them, but, you know, something like that so we can still see our lines. And then foot right, we're going to click on, and then we're going to sample from the other foot, like that. And maybe those or those. I'm not quite sure. I don't want to do 52 colors. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's digital. It's not like we're got to paint 50 colors and then paint 50 more colors. It'll keep these colors all the way through. But what are we going to do for these leg wraps? Let's say lower leg left. We could start off with this brown, or we could pick something close to it and then change it. So I say let's start off with the brown. Then let's go in and say make it a little more gray brown, maybe even a tad bit darker. How's that? Perfect. All right, so we click on the other leg lower. Boom. And sample from the other one. And we're good. All right, I think that looks pretty good. He's a little more interesting. He kind of looks like he works in an office and his name is Barney. But, you know, we could put a shadow up here, you know, for there. But I think at the moment I'm just going to kind of leave him, figure out, you know, what he needs to be, where he needs to be. We probably should do a shadow at least off of the head on that upper arm. But you get the idea. So I feel good that we've moved a little farther along with him than it was. Let me know what you guys think in the comments later. Like, subscribe, please. There'll be a lot more videos better than this one coming up. This is just a stream of me sitting and doing my thing. But yeah, I think he's working out pretty good. Let me know also what you guys would like to see here, because there is a lot of stuff that I do, and I kind of wonder what would be the best thing. You guys have suggested I do, you know, like the mesh warping video, which is coming up. It's a really long one, but it took a lot of editing, so I'm about to finish that one. And like I said, I've got a Vitruvian Bones video coming out as well. That will be more structured and not a live stream. Cool. All right, well, thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. I will talk to you.